Okay folks, today I will be fixing a soldering blunder when I was a kid. Now, I did this soldering joint when I was probably 13, 14 years old, and as you can see, it's awful. It's shit. It's really terrible. I did have the foresight to put a bit of heat shrink tubing before I soldered, but of course it is such a terrible job that there was no way this was going to fit over that. So what I'm going to do today is fix that. Hopefully. We'll see how we go. One of the key things about this is I was a very impatient teenager, and this is a 12 gauge wire, and while 12 gauge is not that thick, when you're impatient it's extremely thick. So one of the things, these are alligator clips, and as you can see they have big teeth. I don't want that gouging into my wire, so I'm going to put a little bit of electric tape around the teeth to make sure that I don't destroy my wire. This is, I don't know, X-Acto knife, what do you want to call it? But I call them awesome because they are extremely sharp and will cut through just about anything. This blade's a little dull. It's been, now that I say that, it's a little dull. It's been in use for a while, but fortunately blades are cheap and easy to come by. Let's just wrap that around there. And the great thing about electric tape or nylon tape or whatever is that it's strong, but it's also very weak at the same time. So when it comes time to cut it off, it won't be that big of a deal. One thing that people sometimes do is they leave electric tape on things for a long time, and the unfortunate side effect of which, with any tape, to be honest, is that it leaves sticky nastiness all over the place. So it's good if you're using it as a temporary solution like this to make sure it's truly temporary and not leave it on there for too long. Alright, well, it's not perfect, but should do. Yes, I like that. Okay, so now unsoldering something that is such an enormous mess like this is not always easy. Oh, I should point out that I'm using a Weller WT-CPT base station with a TC201T tip, and it is not tip, iron, and I think it's 60 watt if I recall correctly. To be honest, it's 60 or less. It might be 40. Either event, I had some fairly, 60 watt. I had a really powerful soldering iron that I paid about half the price. This was like $100. I paid about $50 for a Radio Shack soldering iron a couple years ago, and it was the biggest piece of crap I've ever used. So even though this is only 40 or 60 watts, it gets very hot, and the best thing is it stays hot. The tip that I use is it's flat and pointy on one side. I'm sure there's a real name for it, but I don't know what that is. I like this kind of tip because it keeps heat, and it's still small enough for some delicate work. So let's see if we can't unsolder this horrendously ugly thing. Let's get a little bit of pressure on that, so hopefully it'll pop right off. Aim it away from my camera, that would be ideal. Make sure we're not be moving around. Okay. Now, while I'm doing this, I'll explain. This is a Tekin G12 electronic speed control for a remote-controlled car. It's just the G12. It's not the G12C or G12C3. It's the cheaper of them, and I got it as from a inside of one of the vehicles I bought all those years ago. I didn't buy this one new, which is why I had to solder on these Dean's connectors. These are Dean's, by the way. These red connectors. These are real Dean's. These are old school Dean's. These are pre-turn of the century Dean's plugs. I mean, no reason to ever get rid of them unless you set fire to them or some ridiculousness like that. They should never go bad. I can see an argument for them wearing out potentially, but that would have to be after a very long time and a lot of packs through them. And since I'm a casual driver at best, that doesn't really apply to me. Alright, now I'm going to try and soak up some of this excess solder. One thing to always be careful of, like even now, this is toasty. You don't want to grab it very quickly after using the iron on it. So hopefully out there, yeah. One of the problems that you can have when you're impatient and you just lob a bunch of solder on, you probably can't see it too well, but what can happen is the solder will, stranded wire like this acts very much like cloth when it comes to solder. And so you can imagine if you dip a tip of a napkin in water, the water will absorb, through the napkin. And it's the same concept here. If you apply too much solder on one end, it can actually go down the length of the wire and into the insulated portion, and that's not what you want. So you want to use just enough, but not too much. So now we're going to strip just a little bit off, a little bit of this insulation. Beautiful. Okay. What do we think? A little bit more? Okay, I guess we're back. Maybe it cuts out on me? I'm not sure. I haven't taken very long videos with this camera before. Okay, so fans of Mighty Car Mods will have seen their video describing the two primary versions of soldering a connection. Now, the way in which I have to do it here is the official NASA standard, because I have two things that won't twist together very well. So I'm going to use the NASA version and not, what was it, Queensland, whatever they called it? Not that version. You want a nice coating. Alright. So now, hot. That's actually not too bad, but I think I will try and clean that up just a little bit. Okay, looks like most of that old nasty solder came off on the wire, which is good. And now we're going to prime this one by basically putting a bunch of solder on it. Then let that cool just a smidge. Now this isn't perfect. Definitely a couple things I could have done better. I have a few stray wires, but it survives the pull test, and as you can see, it's a pretty good connection. It definitely is not world class, but you know, I did what I could. Okay, that I believe will work just fine. Now we get my patented lighter out here. Now this part is a bit ugly. Unfortunately, I do not have a heat gun. I should get one, but I don't. So what I do is the extremely unsafe and not recommended match method. So you really don't want to use too much heat. Just enough to shrink it down. Alright, and as you can see, it's now shrunk. That one's still ugly, but it's connected, so that's fine. And that is how you amateurly correct an even more amateur soldering job. So this is just a bored Sunday video. Hope it was, I don't know, somewhat entertaining, and thanks for watching.